traps to avoid while managing projects and developing your project management skills. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals and companies to develop their project management skills. How do I do that in practice? I do it. I provide training to make sure that the companies and of course the people involved with the projects they have a solid foundation there to build their skills. I provide one-on-one coaching and mentoring to help people to develop themselves, to help them to organize their projects, also sometimes to help them to secure a project management position, and also help some companies with consulting to understand where they are and what further steps that they can take to develop themselves. Before I forget, this content here is part of the warm-up of the Project Management Summit. The Project Management Summit it's a free event that's going to happen next week. The only thing that you need to do to participate in this free event is make sure that you subscribe to make sure that you don't miss anything there. During this event, I'm going to show you how to develop and how to proceed to develop your project management skills there. Everything I'm going to say in this event is based on my more than I think at this point more than 13 years of experience working with project managers. I've worked with project managements, different countries in different industries. So so I create this project management summit to help you to develop your skills there. So make sure that you don't miss there. The topic that I want to talk about today is basically how you can avoid traps while executing projects and also while you develop your skills. If you if you haven't been working with project management yet, so that can be very valuable because some of those things I'm going to share here, it should be a trigger for you. Everything that you hear, that you know that sooner or later you're going to end up having problems. Well, the first thing that I want to talk about is every project manager already had a project or had already had a situation that someone comes and tells you, you don't need to worry. This project is an easy one. Everything is solved. That would be an easy. That would be like a walk in the park. You don't need to worry. Or this is a no-brainer. There's not a problem here. Invariably, what happens? You have problems there. Let me tell you a case of that happened, real case that happened with me. I think few years ago. I don't remember exactly the year. One project manager he was leaving the company, so that he was handing over a project to me. And then of course the same thing. Everything is solved. This project, everything is under control. We already released first products. You just need to release the following products, and everything will be okay. But everything is solved. Everything is under control. It's just the only thing that you need to make is just make sure that the team complete the last deliverables, close the deal, and get the final approval. And of course, as I already had quite some experience, when I hear it, someone saying this is a no-brainer, this is a walk in the park, everything is solved. What happens already? An alarm bell sounds internally, say, "Bah! Problems, problems, attention. This is it's a or like in the image from Star Wars, it's a trap, it's a trap." And then of course, I took over the project. First month trying to figure out what's happening there. About in the middle of the second month, I start to find out stuff that people were sometimes in the beginning, the first months, that also because it was a completely new team. Maybe they were trying to say it, but they are being very subtle in something, but not so direct. And then, of course, I start to dig, ask questions. And of course, when you are working with the team members, you start to develop a relationship. People start to trust you more, and they start to share more what's going on. What basically I found out that it was several items that for the first release they should have been done. They were mandatory items, but actually because the company or the project manager or the management or whoever decided want to make sure that we meet the deadline, they decide to compromise and they push it forward. But what happened is, I faced the same decision. Should I compromise it here? So in this case, I was compromising the quality, the risk that I was doing to have something to say that I could meet something, For me, it was very clear. The first thing that I did was come clear to management. Hey, this is a problem. This is not done. That should have been done the first time. And there's a bunch of work that we need to clean it up before we can come up with a release. And of course, I end up escalating the project. The project release delayed a couple of months, but the team was able to solve it. What happened is quite often you hear those people saying, "Oh, this is not a problem. Walk in the park, no brainer. This is an easy one. You don't need to be concerned. That will take less than 10% of your time." All those things, they are traps. Not because probably the people saying that they mean by that, or most of the case people they don't want to trap you. That's not the case. It's not a situation that they are doing something that to make sure that you have a problem later on. But most of those cases, people really don't really understand what's going on in the project. People really don't understand the scope of the project. And I've heard that it's a walk in the park. That's an easy one. A lot of times during my career, and if you talk with other project managers and they have experience, all project managers probably have heard that before, where people come and say, "Oh, this is projects," and I've seen projects like saying, "Oh, this project everything is well. This business case is quite good." Guess what? When we decide to study the business case, there were a lot of missing items in the budget there. This type of project, it was a fixed price project. You can imagine that, so the customer, you agree the way scope. But if not everything is in the budget, when you start to add up this stuff in the budget, that starts to take on and consume your margin, the profitability of the project. Of course, problem. So every time you hear that, be careful. I'm saying if you have never worked with project management before and someone comes and tell you, this is a walk in the park, this is a no-brainer, this is an easy one, be careful. If you are taking a project from someone else, what you should do in a situation like that? You have, if you are taking a project or if you are starting a project that probably sales team hand over to you, you have rule of thumb around 2 months to figure out what's going on in the project and to report it back. In 2 months, yeah, around 2 months, the company and management might still accept it, say the situation was there, you took this time to understand what's going on there, and now you are reporting back. After those 2 months, it's your responsibility. So what you need to do in a situation like that, when people say those things to you, you need to invest the initial month. If you can do it in 1 month, it's even better. Sometimes it's not possible because there's several things that you need to do. If you need to build relationship with teams, that also will take time. So you also can get a full grasp of the situation, what's going on there. But what you need to do there is understand everything what's going to happen there. So you need to make a full review of the timeline, a full review of the scope of the project, full review of the business case, a full review of your costs, your development budget, how you are going to call it. Review this with the team, understanding what's pending and presenting what the real scenario is. It might be that as well everything is good. Hopefully that's the case. In a lot of situations, that's not what happens in real life. And I've seen even in extreme situations where because of disagreement between the project manager and like one of the manager of the company, the project manager got really pissed off and he let things go really bad. Say, okay, you are the boss, you are telling me to do it, that's what's going to do it. And then later on, the results pop up. And that was a massive loss for the company, millions of dollars loss because of that. Not that the project manager he was doing necessarily something bad. He, of course, he had a general manager uh, giving him orders to follow it. But in the end, he was also blamed because he say, yeah, you as a project manager, you should have said at least if you do that, that's going to be the impact. Not accepting this kind of quiet or blindly just because you are tired of discussing with the person. But you have about 1 month to make an assessment how the project is going and to present it back. And if everything is good, that's fine. Because one of the real bad things and one of the worst things that can happen is if after 4 months, 5 months, you say, ah, but that was not my project. I did not start it. And you try to find someone else to blame. That's really bad. You, as the project manager, you need to take ownership of your project. Meaning, for the good or for the bad, you take the responsibility for what's going on in your project. Meaning, oh, someone in your team made a mistake. You should never go there and say, this is the team member that made the mistake and blah, 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 blah. He is the one to blame. He should have done different. You take the hit. That's what a project manager should do. Of course, you're going to talk with your team member, and in a normal situation, you're going to figure out how to move forward. And the same thing if you took a project from others, you accept it. And I know that you might be thinking, oh, but that's not be fair. I understand that's not fair like that. It happened to me. Like already another project, I took it over. The company decided to switch project managers around for God knows what kind of reason. You know what kind of knowledge that you lose with that. But at the time, the general manager he thought that would be a good idea to switch some project managers around. So from one guy to another, he switched the project to me. And for this specifically project, it was an engineering, procurement, and construction project. The team took a decision, probably I don't know, 8 months ago, to buy all the material to put on stock. But what happened is the release of the area, so the construction could really start, was delayed for I don't know for 1 year. So at some point, the company got a lot of material put on stock, and people were asking, "That's a lot of money because you bought a lot of stuff up front, and now you cannot start it." And regardless if the decision that they took at the time was right or wrong, and when they switched the projects, what happened? People start to ask me for a decision that was take probably 1 year before I even start working the project. And I had to explain that instead of going there and say, yeah, but that was the other project manager that did that. No, you don't do that. That's your project. You take the right ownership. And when you do that, people will note that you're doing that. If you're working with people that's at least reasonable, leaders, managers, your team, they're going to notice that you're not trying to throw people under the bus just to avoid that you get some heat, that you get some pressure. Because very important thing when you're a project manager, you're going to get heat, you're going to get pressure. You need to handle that. And the way to handling those kind of stuff is not throwing people over the bus. So what did I do there? Well, I explained the situation. I explained, well, the site should have been released one year ago. At the time, the team we thought that was a good decision because we could have a better pricing, a cost reduction, but that happens. So things change in the project. So we have this, we have all the material in the stock here. It is what it is at this point. That's the reasoning for the decision. The releasing of the area was outside of the scope of the company or outside of the scope of the project team. It was done for a third party or it was done for by the customer. Yeah, the customer delayed. And, nothing that we can do to control that. And so that's a situation that happens. But you need to understand when you take a project, when you hand over a project, you have this period that you need to review it, of course, what's going to happen, report what's the real situation there. When you are reporting the real situation there, you're not doing to blame people. That's very important when I mention that because what you don't want, I just mentioned that you don't want to throw people under the bus. You need to show it. Oh, the business case, the gross margin was, I don't know, 20%. Because of this, and that was not considering the budget. This is the estimation that we have, and not our new gross margin is 15%. This is the action that we think we can take it to try to bring it back, and that's the current situation there, and we follow tracking from that. That's how you do it. Say, oh, the timeline, because I've seen project managers even confirming timelines that were not feasible. And then at some time, of course, you miss it because time will pass either way. And if you cannot make it, you cannot make it. But they say only last minute. And some type of project managers, Before the problem has issues, they are going to look for a new job and they move for another company. So what do you need to do there? You confirm the situation. Say, this is the timeline. This is the critical path. This is how we are going here. This is where we are, and we don't think we can meet the timeline. Well, if we do you take these actions? We think we can kind of mitigate it, but the original timeline is lost. And you report it back. You have the discussion. You take the heat. You explain what happened. Say, oh, this was assumptions that did not happen. The progress here was not exactly going as planned. This part here of the project, we did not have good visibility. And you explain, you take the hit. That's what a company expects from a project manager there. So that's how you should handle it in your life. Meaning, going back for the beginning where people tell you that's a easier, does not matter. Every time you hear that, make sure that you do an assessment. Make sure that you present the real status situation, and then then after that take ownership for your project. Whatever happened in the past, say, yeah, but someone took a bad decision 6 months ago, and now I need to deal with that. Yes, that's life. That's simply the way life works. You might say, but it's not fair. Guess what? Life is not fair. You need to handle. You work with the cards that are handled for you to you. So stop complaining. That will not help. Make sure that you are doing that. Those kinds of things are very challenging, yes, but that's the only way that you can progress in a decent situation. And I've already mentioned to you two cases that happened to you. If I start to think about, probably I have more experience on business case that I got, challenge that I get. You find a way to handle with that. That's what will define you as a project manager. Because if you're the type of project manager that's 8 months later will be nagging, say, yeah, but that was not me. That was not I was not the project manager. No one cares. After 2 months, no one cares if you were the project manager or not. So instead of just presenting something that will not help to build a good image for yourself of a good professional that's on top of things, that is under control it. So instead of every time you blame someone, you show that you don't have control from what you're doing. And in the end, you're going to say you might not have directly control for almost anything in life. The only thing that you can control yourself. But of course, you can relate with your team. But focus in how you're going to solve the problems. Take the heat when you need to take the heat. Take the blame when you need to take the blame, and solve with your team later on. Don't throw people under the bus, because when you take the heat, also your team will notice it, and they are going to trust you. And that's kind of the leadership that you start to build. Say, hey, this person is not here to throw us under the bus. This person is here with us, and whenever it's possible, he's going to defend us. And that's what you want. That's what you want from your team members. If you think about a group, what do you want? You want that people got your back. Say, I got your back. So this is a very important one. Another trap that happens quite often there, before I talk about developing your skills in projects, is someone in management or leadership that are going to tell you, I got your back. And of course, I'm making the connection with what I just said. Why I'm saying that? Be careful in those situations, because usually people that are saying that they got your back is the ones that they're not going to get your back. I know that by own experience, by the way. A few years ago, again, I had a manager, and he was always saying, "No, no, I was reporting to him because he was a global director, so I was reporting to him the situation, say that's what we are going, that's are the problems, we are delayed here because of that and that and that." And suddenly we were in an escalation meeting, and I present the situation, and the situation started to get heated because I presented a delay of 2 months, and the engineering director, he was not happy because of course it was his team to delaying that. And then suddenly the president of the company was saying, yeah, but I was not never informed on about that one. So the escalation process is not working, and they start to give me a lot of heat. And this guy that was always saying, "I got your back, I got your back," what he did it, he sit down and was quiet. because I was reporting to him, but he was not reporting for the next level. And when things they went wrong, and of course, very often people blame the project manager, but that he could have stepped up, say, I talked with you several times about this, and pointed out to try to at least to defend me in a situation like that. After something like that happened, basically my trust with this person was gone. And not that's not the only situation that probably that happened with me. If I think about, probably I can find different type of situation, but this one was quite a significant one because at this point I say, yeah, I cannot trust in this guy because he is going to tell me something, and as soon as something happens, he's going to throw me over the bus. Or when things get heated, just going to hide behind me, and that's not what you want from a leader. At minimum, you want the leader to just stand side by side with you. Like if you are fighting a war, what do you want? You want people fight shoulder by shoulder with you, at least. Good leaders will run in the front, and they are going to make sure that they are the first ones to fight the battle there. Theoretical vision, of course. We are not going to fight anything. If you never thought about that, but that's what I want. And and why I'm saying this is a trap, because I just said that you should never do that with your team, but be aware that people will do that with you. Be aware that sometimes you're going to have team members that they're going to throw you over the bus. A lot of times you're going to have managers or leaders that they're going to throw you over the bus. How do you handle these situations? Depends on the situation, who is the manager and so on. First thing you need to learn that trust is not something easy to build. And once, like in my case, this person completely broke the trust and the relationship we could have. So I start to report to him, write things to him down, but then when he say, we need to do that, every time I was thinking, we don't need to do anything. Because if things go wrong, then you're going to be there to say, yes, my team. If things go bad, you're going to say, that's your problem. Oh, you did a mistake. So that's someone that you don't want to work with. And that's the relationship, of course, I had. Glad that it was only a few months, and then things changed in the company. And later on, I even ended up getting another offer and moving for a different position. But be careful with those situations. Trust is not something easy to build. That's why you need to handle the situations in a very careful way. And so I talk a bit challenges that you're going to face while you're executing a project. But what of developing your skills? Because there are also traps that you need to be careful with them. And the first one, and I see happen quite often, be humble there. I talk with a lot of people, in a lot of situations. I talk with different. What I see quite often happening there. That's why I'm telling you to be humble. Usually, people that they say that they know a lot say, I know everything about waterfall. I know everything about Scrum. I know everything about Agile. I know everything about leadership." Because they have this idea of themselves that they are that good, they are not humble enough to learn. And that's a huge trap. And very often, when I see this trap from people really starting their journey. Why? Because I've seen like people, they did, for example, a master, or they did a training. I don't know. I did a project management training at Udemy. I know project management. I literally heard that from people that was trying to start with project management, but I just don't know how to apply this in practice. So I'm sorry to say to you, to be the one delivering the news, but you don't know project management. You think you know something just because you watched some classes, and I'm not saying that because you watch some classes you cannot learn. But if when the situation is presented, you cannot make a connection with what you saw there with the practice, you did not learn anything. So be careful with the trap that thinking that you already know everything. And I'm telling you that with more, I've already mentioned here, more than 13 years of experience working with project management. I've done, I don't know, very easily, I would tell you that I've done more than 200, 300 hours of different types of training to improve my skills there. From basic trainings to understand waterfall, trainings to understand the PMBOK, trainings to learn Scrum, trainings to understand Kanban, trainings to learn finance, to learn lean, leadership, teamwork. I've done like coaching trainings, mentoring trainings. There's always something else that you can learn. There's always a way that you can improve yourself. There's always something that you can look in how you can further step. Because in general is you study something, you learn something, then you start to apply it. You are at a level, and more you do something, and mainly if it's something very fundamental, it more you do it, more you go deeper in the topic, more you are going to learn. Does not necessarily mean that you are going to say, "Oh, I've had a completely new insight." For example, for Scrum, oh, now there's something that I did not know all about on the Scrum guide. That's not the case that you're going to have a very nice insight. Say, now they create, there's a new event there that I did not know about. That's not the case. That's not the type of learning I'm talking about. I'm talking about a deeper learning and understanding about something. For example, if you're studying Scrum, you see a lot, and if you're doing with the Scrum organization, you see a lot they talking about the product backlog, that everything that in a project should be in the product backlog. And this is, of course, if you are in the first level of knowledge, you're going to say, understand everything should be in the product backlog. What's not direct, it's not directly said there. Why do you need everything in the product backlog? First, because if everything is not there, prioritization will start to be a problem because you're going to prioritize, but you don't have a full visibility in what needs to be done. On the other topics, you're going to have problems on controlling things. You're going to have problems with visibility, transparency, and so on. But this is kind of an understanding already one step down there. That you understand, okay, if I do not do this, I'm going to have problem because I don't have visibility on full work. I'm going to have trouble with prioritization. The transparency here will be heard. And of course, the transparency is one of the foundations that you need to work with Scrum. So every time you can go a deeper level of understanding something, of a WBS. And so very often I read stuff and I study items and I get a different insight for something because I'm going a deeper level of understanding. You move from the surface level that you need to happen, but when you go for a deeper level, that helps you to understand why you're doing that, why this is important. Helps, of course, you to teach people how to do that, and helps you to make adaptation as needed. Because now you move from a level that you need to follow exactly the orders that you have, exactly the orders or the process that you have there, and you can go for a deeper level to see, and then you can start to tailor or to adapt things as it's are that makes it feasible or better for the project or for the company. But this is a much deeper level. So every time that someone tells me, "Oh, I know I already everything with project management," then I look, okay, what's your experience there? Very often I hear that from people working a couple of years with project management, people that has never worked with project management, but they did a training, so they think they know everything. This is a trap. Be careful with that. So what you need to understand that learning everything in life, it's a journey. And of course, you can be in the beginning of the journey where you're just getting to know something, or you can go further steps in the journey. But if it's a journey, if it's a lifelong journey, it will never stop. So it's not the way I see that, not that at some point I'm going to say, I know everything about project management. Although I've seen a lot and I've studied a lot and I've done a lot of certifications to see things in different perspectives, different companies, different type of projects. But still, of course, there's space for me to learn because there's always something to learn. Things are changing. There's new tools, new technology, new interactions. The market change. So there's always something that you can look for improving. That's always something that you can give another step to have a deeper understanding there. So be careful with that. Be careful with those traps that you are going to find while you are executing a project, but also while you are learning. At the moment that you think I've already know something, so your mindset starts to be a fixed mindset because then at that point you're not going to learn anything else because you think you already know everything, and that's not the case. Practice, studying, learning always need to be there, and that works for project management, but also works for everything that you want to learn and all the skills that you want to develop. It's not you're not going to find a day where you're not going to learn something. Making an analogy here, I have two kids. With the first kid, we learn something. My son, of course, we learn sometimes in a hard way how to be a parent there. And then when we decide to have the second kid, and we think, okay, now we are a bit better prepared. In some aspects, of course, you are, but in other aspects, you're not. Why? Because your second kid is different from the first one. It's a different person, different personalities. They want different stuff. So everything that you were doing with the first one might not work with the second one. And making very in a simple way, like my first kid when he was born, he liked us to hold him to sleep when he was a baby. And so of course we'll do that, then we would put him to bed to sleep. The second kid, we try to hold him, then he would cry harder. Until we figure out that at some point he just wants to be by himself to sleep, even when he was a baby. Like we were trying to hold him, to nurse him, and then he would cry. And at some point we would put him in the crib, and then he would just be quiet, like, "Finally, you left me alone." And why I'm saying that, why I'm talking about learning, every project is unique. All the companies will be different, the situations will be different, the people that you are interacting will be different there. So there's always something that you can learn, that you can develop yourself. So make sure that you are humble in the journey there. Because if you're humble and if you have this mindset that thinks there's always something that I can develop, there's always something that I can learn, then you already are in a good step. Why? Because even though that you have challenges, you don't know how to solve something, you understand, okay, that's something that I need to learn. And when you have this mindset, that will make you that will help you to be better. That will help you to start grow, to keep growing, and you have then a life journey of learning and developing yourself, your skills, and of course, hopefully also your results. If you like the content, make sure you, of course, you like it and share it. That also helps me to understand, and of course, helps me help us here to have a better relation, like or how we say in Portuguese. If you want to have a stronger, to make sure that you have a stronger friendship, just like it here. And of course, don't forget to join the Project Management Summit. The content will be available only next week. All this content I'm preparing here is to make sure that you start with the Project Management Summit in the right foot there, with the right mindset, with the right picture there, so we can make the most of this weekend. I can help you to develop your project management skills. Because in the end, if your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in this journey. Thank you and see you soon. Bye.